Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Life is made up of many gorgeous moments. Cherish them all, big and small, with Blue Nile. Whether it's for yourself or a loved one, Blue Nile's unrivaled selection of expertly crafted fine jewelry and statement pieces help make all your moments sparkle. Blue Nile's experts are on hand to guide you, and their diamond guarantee ensures you get the highest quality at the best price. Celebrate a life well lived in the most radiant way and save up to 30% at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com.
You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. Obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors, but they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. That's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. The platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including Y Combinator and Techstar startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/simplify. That's VANTA.com/simplify for $1,000 off.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome back to the Rosbifs Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. And this week, we're back for a second dose. Second dose after a big weekend away, and we've got a very special guest coming up to talk about one of the biggest nights in the French rugby calendar, the Nuit du Rugby. So we'll, be revealing that very shortly. Rob, it doesn't feel very long ago we were recording last. Much change, much news?
No, not really. I feel slightly. I actually feel less human than I did yesterday, which is intriguing. I'm also now, ironically, in this special episode, I'm now not wearing what I was wearing yesterday, which was my newly purchased Cass t-shirt and my, as people might have seen, stunning Brive gold tricolor Adidas tracksuits, which was purchased alongside a hoodie. Although I will never wear the full thing all in one, but it was quite a look when I did for that brief moment, if anyone's seen it on our social media.
Well, let's get into it then. So before we have our latest guest on, we, as we mentioned a few times, were away over the weekend. Limoges, Brive, Castres, Toulouse to finish.
I guess just my first question to you is, Richard, you planned it. Why that order? Why that logistical fiddliness? Why
very exciting question.
Those locations? Why those grounds?
Well, for me, I think Brive, it was one of Ilta Daffith recommendations, wasn't it? It's like a proper rugby heartland, as is Castres, obviously, but Brive, the showpiece team in Pro D2. Very cheap flights either to Brive or Limoges, which is a real bonus, at least if you can get to London airports. And not overly difficult, but slightly long journey between the two on the train, which was very, very reasonable. And you get to finish off in Toulouse for a few hours, which is a wicked place. And Castres is somewhere that I've wanted to go for a while. Die-hard Castres fan that I am, it felt like something of a pilgrimage to finally get there. And I think it lived up to expectations.
Was Castres chosen because it was probably the nearest top 14 game to Brive?
I think when I was looking at it, I think I picked Castres first and then scanned what else you could do around it. It wasn't nothing much more complex than that, Rob.
And then obviously we wanted to kind of get first sighting or an early sighting of Courtney Laws in a Brive shirt, which was he
looked good in a Brive shirt. He
did look really good. He looked really good in all Brive stash, actually, and he is the poster boy of Brive, really, in terms of all the marketing. He is front and center, as he well might be. I think you kind of, if you've got him, you take him for everything you can get, because you're only going to have him for a limited time, and he's so marketable and just such a recognizable face. I guess the question then is why Limoges to start off? What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think it was because it meant I didn't have to take a full day off work. I could take half a day, which but I don't think anything much more complex than that. Nice to see another city. I wouldn't say that the brief look we had at Limoges I'll be clamoring to go back, but some pretty parts nonetheless.
I think Limoges was quite nice. I think it got a bad rep in our assessment of it for the Limoges looseness that happened, but I think it was actually quite a nice place.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Brive, views on Brive as a spot.
Really nice, comfortable, relaxed town, I'd say. Certainly that everyone seemed to be chilling on a Friday afternoon. It was some beautiful bits to it as well. The market was great and had some very, very refreshing beers, and was it just felt very relaxed generally, I think, that whole day.
Yeah, I think so for Brive and Castres, I was pleasantly surprised by both. I don't know if I just heard the wrong things, but maybe I think because you've heard a few players talk about maybe they're quite small, there's not much to do. They sort of equate that with being maybe not the nicest of spots, but I think both of them were very pretty tranquil. Amazing. It's something that has surprised me, particularly about Castres, was just how quiet it felt. And then you get to the ground and there's 14,000 people or whatever it is, 11,000 people absolutely sending it. And you're like, where have they come from?
Yeah.
They've just popped up out of nowhere.
I think Brive definitely felt a bit bigger. Castres felt really small. I think we kind of all said that. And just on that point of, on Saturday, there were a lot of people in Castres town centre for something that we didn't know was happening. We spotted a number of small dogs, and I think someone joked maybe there's a kind of sausage dog event going on. You Googled it and said there is what was it?
I can't remember what it was called, but it was like the Castres sausage dog fest or something. Like it was just wild.
Procession.
And
it was like, it was kind of like, no, you've made that up. Like, I've just Googled it and it's actually this. It's like, no, it actually is this, and that is why there are so many sausage dogs. So it was quite busy, but we were kind of sat having a kind of quiet glass of wine, weren't we, in just by the river on Saturday, and I'd made a point that I wanted to go and see the welcome of players and the fans' welcome and the stuff behind it. And you go from that kind of, it's about 15-minute walk to the stadium, and it's a pretty good fit. It's a 15 or less, I'd say. And kind of about halfway you start hearing noises, and you can tell it's coming from a stadium or something like that. And this is like 2 hours before kickoff, and it's guys on the microphone like revving up the crowd and singing the songs, and you turn around the corner, it's kind of almost like I was kind of like, oh god, I've got to run there, like, because there's something exciting happening and I don't want to miss out. It is incredible. Like they're kind of lining the little the street that the bus pulls in on. There's kind of they're handing out free flags and just getting it all ready. I think there's obviously some kind of placed people that have the flares ready, but they're going through the procession of songs. Everyone's got their flags. Everyone's in blue and white. And about an hour and 40, I think, before. So I've always tried to. This is the first time I've ever kind of properly got the proper welcome and properly nailed it. in terms of being there. I kind of did for the Perpignan one, but there's so many people there. And I think you kind of want to be outside the ground, just outside the ground by the entrance, about an hour and 45, an hour and 50 before, just to be safe. And it is worth kind of going out your way for, I'd say. We thought we did it at Brive.
Well, I was going to say, I want to pull you up slightly on that. So on that second day, fair play, it did look great. There's some wicked footage, both of the Castres and Perpignan fans. But we sort of tried to do the same the day before. Got there probably about the same time early. The Brive players were already kind of trundling around the pitch, but we did get to see the big Aurillac players welcome, which may as well have been anybody getting off any bus anywhere. Yeah. It was like a bunch of blokes
we were the Aurillac
Victoria coach station.
Which, bearing in mind, it's also a local derby. There was actually because they were sat quite near us, the Aurillac kind of supporters section, and they had a pretty good support.
In great voice, actually, weren't they? They were a lot of fun.
But no, I think we just missed it. I'm intrigued to see what that Brive one would have been like. But the Castres one, I've seen footage before, and I've seen them at away games, and I thought I've got to see it. And it was just a frenzy of colour and noise, and it's exhilarating. Like when I refound you guys at the wine bar, I was kind of like, I'm having a bit of a adrenaline come down after that. It was that exhilarating, but it's kind of really cool. They kind of all rock up. All the players come out. They're kind of in a line, kind of spread across, and there's kind of it's quite staged. There's a nod, and Mathieu Raynal just steps forward, and they all kind of file in. But then, as they are walking towards the entrance to the stadium, the fans get tighter and tighter and tighter. So they're kind of all patting them on the back and shaking their hands. It's quite an incredible moment. You can see why guys like Will Collier are already raving about their time in France, because it must just be, as a play, the love and affection you get it must be incredible. And the noise and the colour, it's incredible.
Yeah. And thoughts over, so Castres, Stade Pierre Fabre, where does it kind of rank for you in terms of, the not just before the game, but in-ground atmosphere, the post-match shenanigans? Where are you placing it?
In-ground atmosphere and just general vibe, I'd say it's up there with kind of Pau, Bayonne, Stade Chanzy, Saxe-V. The food offerings were excellent in the ground. We all had a bit of merguez sausages, didn't we? That was really good.
It was very good, yeah.
And the bodega afterwards was massive and rammed, and there was a huge hog roast, which people may have seen on our social media as well. That was a proper hog roast, not some kind of, I don't know, it just looked better, and it kind of came with the mushy, soggy, herby, garlicky French fries that they do. So Castres, if that was my first experience of French rugby, they would have been automatically my team, because it was great. But obviously I've got my allegiances elsewhere. Section Paroisse was also great. How do you rank?
I thought it was wicked. I thought it was great. Some slightly looser fans at Castres, an old boy in front of us who took great pleasure in essentially sort of flipping the bird to a few Perpignan fans who, to be fair, have been behaving themselves. But it was all just a bit silly and a bit vitriolic, but quite good fun. I loved it.
Stand, so it really loud, ramps up the
and
noise.
Rumbly.
Yeah.
Brive, fantastic ground, amazing sort of like a proper facility, isn't it? Like,
yeah, that was the word I
would kind of post match sort of offering is a huge kind of modern bunker, big light show after the game.
10 minutes,
like really big. It was very cool, slightly bizarre. It didn't really go anywhere, or we didn't really know what was going on, but it looked very cool. An amazing and pretty amazing place. I think maybe lacked a little bit of bite in the atmosphere, but I think that was because they were always comfortably ahead of Aurillac. I think a barrage game or a access match or first top 14 game back, if they get there, like that's the one you want to be at. I think it'd be pretty special. And fabulous view, both grounds kind of, on the 10-meter line, between 10 meter and the 22 for 25 quid, give or take. So I would thoroughly recommend both, I think.
I think that would be my tip. is always try and get tickets they generally call it the Tribune de Face, so the one that faces where the players come out, so not the one that the players come out of. Generally, that's the better one because that will be the one on TV. So they always want to show the one with all the best atmosphere. So it's generally the one that you would see on TV that you want to be in, which isn't always the biggest or fanciest. I can't remember what I was going to say. Yes, on the costs. So you were eyeing up a Bath ticket for a few weeks' time, weren't you?
Yeah, and worked out you could get, well, at least on this occasion, both match tickets for Brive and Castres and the return flight was, I believe, exactly the same price as one ticket to stand behind the post for Bath Bristol. So if you needed any more persuasion to get yourself out to France, please, do it, because it's bloody great, even though the wreck is a lot of fun, to be fair.
Best thing you ate during the trip, Rich?
Probably Confit Duck, little
Sunday.
restaurant in Castres on the Sunday.
I think that's probably mine, the duck breast there. I mean, we ate pretty well. I think we had a lot of really good hearty French food in both places. Best thing you drank?
Ooh, what, apart from Jet Van Set?
Yeah, apart from Jet Van Set.
Probably that wine bar on the last day in Toulouse, your favourite place.
Yeah,
is fabulous, isn't it? One of the sparklings in there was pretty magical for €4 a glass.
Yeah.
Particularly as well when I wouldn't say I was massively fancying a glass of wine, and the first hit really got you. It was very good.
Yeah,
how about you?
That's it. I mean, that the Syrah, the red wine that I had at Nabucodonosor in Toulouse was probably the number one. Some very good lagers at the market in Brive. Really good, tasty lunchtime lagers.
Yeah. It's a good trip, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, we had some lovely food in Limoges as well. Some really lovely local.
Very good.
It's very, very reasonably priced, hearty food.
And I think when the Champions Cup fixtures swing back around, we'll for anyone who might be ending up in Castres or Brive or Limoges on their way to a game, we'll do what we did last year and flick up some proper recommendations. Alrighty, should we get our very special guest on?
Yeah, and I think we'll be wrapping it up at the end of that. So for this week, we might not speak to you again this week, but we'll be back next week. But yeah, there's plenty going on in French rugby in the mainstream English media now, which is really cool, which is slightly linked to this special guest. So one part of this special bonus episode this week, we wanted to look at La Nuit du Rugby, or the Rugby Night, which is the big awards ceremony in French rugby. And we are very, very grateful to have at a very last minute request when I had a brainwave this morning. But someone that attended the La Nuit du Rugby, Telegraph journalist Charles Richardson. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. A pleasure and a privilege. Thank you.
Probably the best podcast you'll appear on today or this 100%. Week. Yeah, or this year. Who knows?
I doubt it.
Well, I guess I feel very lucky to have kind of an English perspective on this because, and in France it is a big event. But for anyone that wasn't aware of it before this week or isn't aware of it still, what is La Nuit du Rugby?
It's basically the top 14 and Pro D2 end of season awards for last season, but it is held at the start of this season because obviously the French season goes on quite late, so doing it at the end of the season could be quite tricky. So they hold it at the start of the following season in the Olympia in Paris, which is this wonderful Art Deco theatre, and yeah, the great and the good of French rugby are all in attendance. Really, there were some big names there on Monday night. from past and present. It was the 20th anniversary, actually, of it on Monday night. So they've been doing it for 20 years. It's not a sort of meal sit-down awards ceremony. It's a very much you're in a theatre and you face a stage and you watch it. But then afterwards is where the sort of party genuinely gets going. There's a sort of after party. I say after party as if it's some kind of like illicit, unofficial thing. It's very much a party. It's the only reason I went, really.
Boat races.
It's basically where you get fed and watered, and it's in this beautiful event space around the corner in the centre of Paris. This marvelous sort of marble building called Pavillon Cambon. And yeah, there was a live band, bottomless champagne and foie gras. So I had a very fun time on Monday evening, I must say.
Well, that leads on to my next question, which I was gonna ask anyway. But how on earth do you get an invite to that?
Well, we were invited. So this was the third year that me and Will Kelleher of the Times have been. The LNR have just invited us because all the award winners on Monday night were available in a sort of mixed zone press conference-y style environment to interview. So we went and we did do some work. That's why the after party bit is by far my favourite part, because that's when the work's actually finished. We found that out from the past 3 times we've gone now. It's the awards. We just need to speak to everybody, do our bit. We don't need to write anything live, because it's not like the sort of all the French journalists are there like writing up all the award winners live in this press room, sort of looking over at us very jealous. But we don't need to write anything live, because I don't really think readers of the Daily Telegraph or the Times are that interested in whether Antoine Dupont has won the best player in the top 14 for the 3rd year in a row. It's like a breaking news thing. So we just speak to them all, and then we just go and have some food and drink, and then come back, and then we'll discuss when to write up the interviews and run them.
Yeah, and you were saying just before we joined that your day today has consisted of writing up said article for publication in the Telegraph.
Yes, and yeah, a bit of a shameless plug. That hopefully should be published tomorrow. I've written up a sort of shortish piece about my night there on Monday, just about how lavish it is, and there's a lot of pictures, and there's a video of a brass band that just made an impromptu appearance in the crowd and at the after party, and there was an 8-tier celebration cake trailing behind them. But yeah, it is incredibly good fun. I every year that I go, I feel incredibly privileged to be there, and I hope that they continue to invite us, because it's one of the highlights of my season, and it has been for the past 3 seasons.
Amazing. And without obviously giving too much away ahead of the article, any of the sort of winners or nominees you make for a particularly good soundbite or particularly good value?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, I don't think that would give too much away at all. There are no quotes in the piece tomorrow, except a little bit with Thierry Dusautoir, who was there and was on really good form. He won a sort of 20-year sort of ceremonial prize,
lifetime achievement sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of thing. Like the player of the last 20 years in France, basically. I think it was him, Christophe Dominici, who obviously very sadly wasn't there in person, and Michelak and Josion, I think, were the 4 nominees for that award. And Dusautoir won. I think it was voted by, I don't know, by players or past players or something, and Dusautoir won it. He was there. Last year there was Jean-Pierre Rive and Philippe Sella, but they weren't there this year. But this year there was Serge Blanco, there was Thierry Dusautoir, there was Pascal Ondard, the former the Basque prop, the French prop. Michelak was there because obviously he was nominated. These are the people that we spoke to. Mathieu Raynal has always got something very, very interesting to say. Very, very interesting character, and he is always there until the wee small hours. Always,
yes.
Without.
Tell us something we don't know.
He's the last off the dance floor, and he's always holding court with somebody. And he is. Me and my colleagues call him King Mathieu, and I don't think that will ever change. He's always excellent value. And then we had a really good chat as well with Aaron Grandidier, who is the who's the obviously the French Sevens gold medalist, but is as English as us 3, really.
I would say Croydon's finest, but we know Croydon's finest is actually his Pau teammate Emilian Gaeton. So
I was going to say Emilian Gaeton, but he has a fascinating story, and there'll be more to come on that. There'll be more to come on that soon, because he's got a really interesting story about how he slipped through the net in England, and also just fell out of love with rugby at school. And so more to come on all on that theme. But everyone's always on excellent form. I mean, Antoine Dupont, he was available, but it was a media scrum to get to him. So and his English, I mean, I speak French, but his English isn't amazing. So it's more trouble than it's worth sometimes with Antoine now, because it requires a lot of translation work, and everybody's there. Everyone wants to speak to him. Everybody's got it that what he says is out there immediately as soon as he said it, just because of how sheer volume of people speaking to him. So we swerved him this time, which feels like a bit of a shame given the year that he's had. But brilliant player.
Sure, they won't be his last awards.
No, exactly. And to be fair to him, I was wondering whether he'd even go, because I can just imagine that he's had enough of the limelight and the media and being badgered all the time. But he's been there the past 3 years every time. Like there are award winners and nominees who don't turn up. And Toulouse to Paris is not a short journey. But he goes every year, and even though he's not really been playing in the LNI, in the leagues this season, and he didn't obviously only played about half the matches last season, if that, he was still there.
Yeah, I mean, they probably just have a private jet for the whole of Toulouse, don't they, to take them all up?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they were out in force. They were really out in force, which, I mean, they were nominated. Antoine won 2 awards, and Toulouse won Best Coaching Staff as well. So they had good reason to go. But, Hugo Moller was there, Clement Poitrenaud, Jean Bouillou, the great flanker. Obviously, Antoine was there. I'm just trying to think now who else I saw. But Pertal Mavaka was there. I think he's injured at the minute, isn't he? And I think I saw Dorian Aldegheri, but don't quote me on that, because I'm not 100% sure. I saw someone that looked like Dorian Aldegheri in a crowd near the Toulouse lot near Mavaka. But yeah, the Toulouse guys. Oh, and Didier Lacroix, the club president, was also there, and he's always got plenty of people buzzing around him, because he's a very powerful man in French rugby. So yeah, the Toulouse guys are always there in force, actually.
And just before we dive into the actual awards themselves, who formulates the nominations? Who votes on these awards? Who kind of has the say on these awards?
Well, a lot of them are voted by the players. In the respective leagues, there's sort of the best Pro D2 player, best Pro D2 coaches, best top 14 coaches, best top 14 player, best. The other award that Antoine won was the best French international across 15s and 7s, but as in it could be either or. It's not the best person to play both, but he won that. The best French women's player, and then there was also best try, which was voted for by the live. It was on.
That was online. Yeah, I think you can apply it if you've got an account.
Yeah, so it was the awards were live on Canal Plus, which is again another great thing that they do, and that was voted for by the general public, the best try. During the ceremony, and then it was won by Dakawaka of Stade Francais, quite rightly so, because what a try that was.
I guess let's start with that one. So if we just run through a couple of the nominees for that, some of them were pretty average, I thought, some of these tries, but none of them stuck out quite as much. So the Remy Bagé one was a wonderful crossfield kick and some pretty loose play, but I think there was a Deporter one, which is kind of length of the pitch, as you might expect from Bordeaux. There was a Jeannot one and a Capozzi one that are forgettable. Whereas I think it would have been, I think I saw like the winning margin was something like 13,000 votes or something. It was something astronomical, like the highest winning margin they'd had for the try of the season, because I think...
Is that right?
Yeah, I think I was going to give up doing this if the Dakawanga try had not won best try of the season, because it's it is probably the best solo try of all time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to call you up slightly. That Capozzo one from the final, the last try in the final was utterly unbelievable, wasn't it? Wasn't that the length of the third one?
Good point. Yeah.
I thought that might give Dakawanga.
But there were so many of them in that game. It was kind of
there were, and also the game was so over by then that it was it was sort of them showing off, wasn't it? But that's not to take anything away from them. But
I guess then that you mentioned him more than a couple of times, Antoine Dupont. So he did win a few awards, as we've kind of got used to. I think it's interesting that you pointed out that it was the best international player across 15s and 7s, which feels like a bit of a fudge. It feels like they're shoehorning the award into him, because if you are looking at purely 15s, the nominations were, if I find it, Francois Cross, Piato Marvaca, and Antoine Dupont. Now, Antoine Dupont missed a few games of the World Cup. He obviously missed the Six Nations. He obviously didn't summer tour. Not that either Cross or Marvaca did, but Francois Cross was brilliant in every single game France played. Even when they were crap, he was brilliant.
Yeah, no, you're right, he was.
I without the 7s thing, there is no way Antoine Dupont, as amazing as he was, like returning with the cheekbone and all that stuff in the World Cup, he is only how many games did he play in the World Cup? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's played 3 15s games, but I guess the 7s thing.
New Zealand, the game where he went off was Namibia, and then he came back for South Africa.
Yeah.
That was it. So 2.5.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, the sort of the other side of the coin is that how could you possibly give an award for last season in terms of French international rugby attainment and not give it to Antoine Dupont, who basically set the entire world alight before the Olympic Games in Paris. So
I'm a bit of a contrarian, so that's more than easy for me to kind of.
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. It did feel a bit contrived, but also it's just sort of like, yeah, just give it to him. Just give it to him. He'll deserve it for something, even if it's not the right thing. He deserves 2 awards.
Well, the other one, he won the top 14 player of the year, and he didn't really play that much in that either. So we did a team this season. Sorry, Charles, go for it.
They should have created a new award of Champions Cup, French Champions Cup player of the season.
Because he was brilliant in every single game of that.
Because he was brilliant in every single game in that. And then he could have had a genuinely fair award.
The other nominees, so Rich and I did a top 14 team of the season back end of last year, or probably over the summer, really. And we had some pretty strict criteria. I'm just trying to find the spreadsheet, actually, Rich. We had some pretty strict criteria for who made our team.
I'm pretty sure the criteria was they had to have played one more game than Dupont did in the top 14, just so we could egregiously leave him out. But yeah,
we didn't include any Toulouse players in our team of the season, just because none of them fit the criteria that we had of. I
think it was 14 games or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we had,
right. Yeah.
I think Dupont had 14 starts, 14 games at scrum half. No, sorry, 14 games in total.
Yeah,
but not all of them were at 9, but he played a few at 10. So he didn't classify with enough games for 9 or 10. We left Tavita Tatafu out because we decided there were too many Bordeaux players in it for a team that got hammered. So Jeremy Ward by default for us would have been our. Well, I'm speaking on behalf of Richard. By deduction, I think, Rich, are you happy that Jeremy Ward would have been our winner?
Yeah, probably. Although I'd forgotten about how ridiculous Dupont was in a couple of games at 10. It's like Bayonne. They played Bayonne at home, and he kind of went the distance to get a bonus point with the last play just before he went off on the 7th circuit.
There's also like an outrageous inside ball in that game, wasn't there?
Yeah. But I mean, Jeremy Ward would have been a worthy winner as well. I mean, I know Stud from Clay struggled a little bit at the start of the season, but he was awesome for them last year, and they were awesome last year as well. And underperformed really. They should have. I mean, I think they probably would have given Toulouse a better game in the final than what Bordeaux did. But obviously Bordeaux knocked them out, didn't they? So it was. That's 2 years in a row now where they've not reached the final after doing pretty well.
Yeah. And he only made his first start of the season, I think, on the weekend. So their first 2 games where they've had a bit of a leaky defence, maybe linked to him. The other one that I felt kind of particularly strongly about was La Révélation, which is the kind of newcomer of the year, effectively. So that was, the nominees were Paul Coss, Mathis Castro-Ferreira, and Teo Asogbe. Now, we are fans and have been for quite a while of all 3.
Yeah.
But I think maybe, Rich, who would you have gone for of those 3?
Probably would have gone at Sogbe.
I think really? Sogbe was kind of our first love of this. Our first real discovery of the season, because he was just in the kind of early part of the season, he was just brilliant. And then he obviously went on to, I think he deserves it because he was 3rd most appearances in the whole league, or 2nd.
Played a lot, yeah.
He's amazing. But I mean, Gazotti's been awesome this season from what I've seen for Bordeaux. I haven't seen that much of them, but he's looked. I think against Racing in particular, he looked amazing. But obviously, this is last season solely, and really, in terms of last season, I think I probably would have gone Cost.
I think he kind of came in a bit late.
He did come in a bit late. He basically ended up starting at 13.
Yeah.
His first choice for one of
best
the
team
best
in the world.
of all time.
He would have been my 3rd choice because I absolutely love Castro Ferreira as well. So, but you're not playing along.
Ferreira? Sorry, no, it was Castro Ferreira, not Gazzotti. Sorry, sorry, it was Castro Ferreira. Yeah, he is also brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
I think, but you're not getting the anti-Toulouse rhetoric, which is completely unjustified and not actually that much vitriol on it. But I'm also a Po fan, so I'm completely blinded by my love for Teo Asogbe. But I think he was a revelation because you kind of bored of Toulouse players coming out of the academy or the Espoirs and being really, really good and being the son of a Heineken Cup winner. Did he win the Heineken Cup with Brive? Maybe not, but a son of a France international is kind of not that much of a revelation. Whereas some scrawny winger who's got it all, I think, is a revelation. And then the best coaching performance. Now, this is the one where I think is entirely justified. So the nominees were Bordeaux, USAP, and Toulouse. I guess USAP had a brilliant turnaround, not only from the season before where they were in the access match, but actually kind of halfway through the season they were languishing down in 13th. I think Bordeaux played some fantastic rugby, but I think just the amount of quality that Toulouse had in when they were putting out teams with 3rd choice players and still really comfortably beating teams was just, that's got to be the coaching. I'd love to know, like, kind of, I think I heard an early interview with Blair Kinghorn. It's like the kind of secret sauce of Toulouse is like what people want to know the answer to, because it's just, there must be something in the water there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really give, being honest, much insight into that because they do sort of keep themselves a little bit, the Toulouse coaches. I've tried to interview a couple of them before and I've just been told sort of no for no real reason. But what I can say is that, it's very much not, we probably have this perception of them being the great aristocrats, the great entertainers, the sort of very flamboyant team, and Hugo Motta just standing there and shouting, "Jouez, lads, jouez," just wang it about a bit. All I can say is that Steve Borthwick has spoken a couple of times about last season and the season before about going over to see them because obviously Jack Willis was there. And he went over. He said he had lots of calls with them, and he was just very, very impressed by them. And he's obviously coaching purist, Norse 101, would hate. He's detail obsessed, fastidious, and very meticulous, and he would not click well with someone who was just very laid back and just going, "Yeah, it'll all sort itself out. Antoine will do something, and then we'll win." So clearly they have got something there. And you just look at the names. I mean, I know Ugo Moller is not like worldwide that renowned, or maybe not even Europe-wide that renowned, but he's clearly doing a good job. And he's got Jerome Kano, who, everybody knows, one of the greatest blindsides of all time. Clement Poitrenaud, who was a phenomenal fullback in his day, minus one ridiculous moment, obviously. And Jean Bouillou, who is... he
was a stalwart of that great team. He was never got the international caps, but he was he was captain, wasn't he? Or he was, I guess Toulouse was captain, but
Toulouse was captain. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think in a list of the most underrated players in Heineken/Champions Cup history, he'd be right up there as number one. He was awesome. He was such a good line-out forward. He was so skillful. An unbelievably unbelievably good offloading forward. He's the most cap to lose player of all time in terms of club appearances.
Yeah.
And like that's your coaching team, like with the greatest respect, you should be doing well.
Yeah. They're also, I reckon they're the best looking coaching team in the top 14. They're all incredibly good looking Roosters. Yeah, maybe that's linked. I don't know. And talking of, if we just round it off, talking of people with a bit of je ne sais quoi, to link it back to the start, the referee, Pierre Brousset was nominated, Ludovic Kerr was nominated, but there was only ever going to be one winner in his final season, which was the King, King Mathieu.
King Mathieu, indeed. I mean, again, I don't quite know whether that was a bit like Antoine, whether that was sort of fully deserved. Like, he didn't do the top 14 final, and I don't think he did any summer tours. Well, he might have retired. Oh no, he did. No, he did. He did something in the summer. I can't remember now. He's off the top of my head, but he definitely didn't do any of the sort of business end of the season in France. But it was his fourth win in a row, which is quite funny, really.
Was it?
But it also speaks to a more fundamental issue, actually, and a more ideological issue in French rugby, that they just don't have the calibre of refs that we do in England. And I know there's probably English rugby fans going, who don't rate our refs in England either. But trust me, they are
good, yeah,
significantly better.
The French ones all keep joining clubs as coaches.
Well, yes, that has also happened, but now, from the start of this season, Romain Poit, he's no longer with. He was with Toulon. He was with Toulon, wasn't he? Yeah, he was with Toulon. Romain Poit and King Mathieu are in charge of the refs full time.
Oh, okay, good.
So they've been given the sort of the Chris White role at the RFU. That's what they've been given in a bid to improve the median standard of French refereeing. I think that's part of it. Look, he is widely respected there, and people were coming up to him, people that he'd refereed, and saying hello, and it was genuine. It was sincere hellos. There was no sort of animosity, and he's widely respected, and he deserves his awards because he's an incredibly nice bloke.
And he looks class smoking a massive end of season cigar, which I think he did after his final game as well. So
correct. He needs no second invitation for that sort of carry on, let me tell you.
Amazing.
Well, I guess so. Just on Mathieu Raynal, I think the fact that you were partying hard with him, I think, as you were just saying beforehand, Charles, that you've not had a great deal of sleep, so we'll as a result of partying too hard with Mathieu, with King Mathieu. So we won't take up too much more of your time. I think we just wanted to hear about your next trips, or if you could kind of give. We had Elgin on a few weeks back, and he kind of was umming and ahhing about whether there was going to be another trip this year. But it sounds like you've got quite the trip lined up.
Well, yeah. The reason why I don't think it might be saying the reason why he's been umming and ahhing is because I don't think he's going to be coming, and because he's getting married.
He's
getting married at the end of November, and so quite rightly and quite sort of reasonably, he has bigger fish to fry than to go gallivanting around the south of France for 4 days in December. But me and a couple of other mates in the same university friendship group, we're going to be doing, hopefully, if the stars align, Brive, Angoulême, Vannes and La Rochelle in December, the weekend before Christmas. And I've never been to Brive before, and I've never been to Vannes before, so I'm very much looking forward to those.
Well, the other part of this special podcast is our trip as well. We ticked off Brive on Friday, so
I saw. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, cracking.
Yeah, it's a proper club. Like, it's staggering to think that. I know the kind of comparison to second tier, but it's staggering. Like, it's bigger than Championship football, I think, in some cases. So it might be bigger than some Premier League grounds, or like it feels like a bigger attendance and stuff like that than certainly quite a few Championship clubs. football players.
Yeah, I mean, I think Courtney Lawson's enjoying himself.
I think so. Some side as well. They look like they'll be pretty hard to stop, to put it mildly.
And they love a Friday night game, well, they did last year, Thursday night game. So fingers crossed for Stars to align and to get that golden ticket of the Thursday night game and the very cheap flights from Stansted to Brive, which we've spoken about in the rest of the episode. But
no, but you know they finished. They're seasonal, so we can't even do that. They're April to mid-October, I think, or start of October. So no, we'll be flying to Bordeaux and hiring a car and driving. So that opens it up a little bit more, but it does mean that if it's not Brive, the Thursday night game, we might have a longer drive in store.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Stansted to Brive line is brilliant and always looks so cheap. And I just wish they'd do it all year round.
Only available to fair weather Pro D2, all Courtney Laws fans.
Can you do it on a Tuesday night in Angoulême?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a cracking trip wherever you end up, and I look forward to seeing it on social media and hopefully maybe another article about it.
Yeah, well, I hope so. It just I need a point of difference. Otherwise, it's just too samey if I just keep on writing about my holidays.
I think talk about the road trip. If you end up in the car and you're doing a 5-hour road trip, I think talk about that. There'll be plenty of stuff happening along the way on that.
Yeah, usually what happens is the lads in the back seat sleep for the entire thing, leaving me on my own to drive it with the tunes blaring to keep myself awake. That's usually how it goes.
Well, yeah, I think we were pretty similar last year for the World Cup, but we won't keep you any longer because we're conscious that you had a pretty hectic schedule, and partying with King Mathieu can certainly take it out of a man. You've got a very important article to get published tomorrow in tomorrow's Telegraph on La Nuit du Rugby. So, Charles Richardson, thank you very much for your time, especially at such short notice, and for being so generous with that time.
No, not so much. Thank you. Thanks, Rob and Rich. Thanks for having me anytime. I'm more than happy to come back. It's been a very pleasant way to spend a Wednesday evening. So thank you very much for having me, and thanks for the invite.
Cheers.
Cheers, Charles. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly.